Hello, this is Brogue Talks. I'm Cat on Us, and today I'll be talking about Knights of the Old Republic 2. This isn't really a critique or a review of the game, but more of a reflection on it, what it meant to me, and what I think it meant to some of the other people who played it. Before I can talk about Knights of the Old Republic 2, I need to talk about Knights of the Old Republic 1. The two games use the same system, looked the same, and were released only a year apart. Knights of the Old Republic 1 was very clean, very polished. It had a simple good or evil story with MacGuffins being found, and it ended with you saving the universe from Darth Malak, or taking over the Star Forge and becoming the Dark Lord yourself. It was very satisfying, and you really felt like a Jedi or Sith. You really felt like a scoundrel or a soldier. The whole thing was very simple, very clean, and very satisfying. But at each individual location where the MacGuffins were held, there were more complex and interesting stories that kept people hooked and made the game very much enjoyable. Exploration, combat, and these decision-making, role-playing parts of the story worked together and made a very good, fun, full experience. Knights of the Old Republic 2, on the other hand, was very much unpolished, unfinished even. It was pushed out the door before it was really ready, and it suffers a lot for it. But I don't think it's without value or merit. I don't think it's a game that's not worth having. It was a game not worth playing. I think it was very much a good game, but ungraceful, unpolished. Now, I like to be a positive guy, so I'm going to start on the negative things and then finish the video off with what I thought was positive. Now, the first thing is that in Knights of the Old Republic 1, the story was kept simple and it was satisfying. In Knights of the Old Republic 2, they tried to make it more complicated, and it was convoluted and confusing and dumb. The idea that the main character was like a wound in the Force, the amnesia cliche, although that's used in the first one a little bit, and the very lackluster ending where almost nothing is resolved, where most of the material was cut out. It really doesn't leave a person satisfied unless you go in, rip up all the stuff, and try to tear out some of the things out of the code. You can see or hear the audio from scenes where Adam gets his hand cut off, and there was a lot cut there, and it made for a really bad ending. You don't really get any closure on Beodor's droid and Goto, or what Krea's deal was, unless you do really specific things. There was a lot missing there, and also some of the main villains were dumb. The guy who could hold himself together with the Force, okay, that's an interesting idea. That's cool. Krea as a villain, that was interesting. But everything after you gather or kill the Jedi Masters was kind of a mess. The pure Force being that consumed whole planets was weird and dumb, and you fought him face to face, and it was just a mess there. You save all the Jedi, but they're not there. They're dead, or it just kind of fell apart near the end. There's a lot of problems. But for all of that, there was also a lot of good stuff. One of the things that I really enjoyed was the influence system. The idea that by doing things that your characters like, by showing them new ways of doing things, you can actually change their outlook in the world, change their alignment. You can do things that'll make your characters think differently and act differently towards you, and these have mechanical and story implications. These change the way the game is played. And that is really, that's a big thing. That's been seen in some other games recently, but this was the first time I'd ever seen it, and it really changed the way I acted, specifically around certain characters. For example, I was an evil character at one point, and in Narshada, you can get a lightsaber part if you kill a guy, but you get evil points, and anyone who's with you loses influence with you. But if you don't bring anyone, there's no real downside. So you leave everyone on the ship and you go and you kill this guy and you get the lightsaber part, and that's really powerful. You get the lightsaber way sooner. But it makes you really feel like that dastardly character who's part of this good team, but, you know, sneaks off and does his own thing on the sly, the snake in the grass, you know? It's really its own great thing. And it made me feel more connected to the story and the other characters when I actually cared what they thought about me. Of course, there were issues with this system. The fact that no matter how evil I made my friends, they still wouldn't like it when I just stabbed somebody. No matter how much I, convinced people that I was a great dude, they'd still only have their own point of view. But this was a first try at this, and I can forgive little issues like that. That would have been very hard to, or I can assume, would have been pretty hard to implement. Now, the other thing that I really liked was Kreia. Kreia made this game. Sure, a lot of the other characters were really interesting. Many of them were just as good as the original Knights of the Old Republic. But Kreia is what made it interesting to me. When you make a good decision, when you make a decision in line with your alignment, and you still get the good points. You still get your alignment points, which is interesting. But she questions you on whether this is actually the right thing to do. Now, a lot of the times I would be like, I know it's good to give money to people who really need it. I know it's good not to kill this guy. Things like that, where I can justify it, but I remember there being one conversation where she talks about how if you help people, you get better for it. That you get stronger for it. So that if you're just going to help all these people, you're taking their strength. You're becoming better, letting them stay the same. So you use them up, and then when you really need to get something done, you leave behind these people that didn't become stronger, and you just do it yourself. You use them up and leave them behind. And she didn't say it in a judging way. The voice acting there is very good. It's a standout performance. The whole thing is not judging, it's saying, it's like, look, if that's what you're going to do, just know that that's what you're doing. Do that and you'll still succeed. And everything will be great. But that actually got me to stop and think. Now this was like, 15-year-old little kid Cadmus, but no other game had made me do that before. Had made me stop and think, like, is this really the right thing to do? Am I actually doing good? And since then, a couple games have done that. There was a moment in Dragon Age that gave me pause, but this meant something to me. Now, I know that there's a lot of people, in fact, I think it's the majority of people who played this game, saw it as either a disappointment, it was less than they expected of it, or just a downright betrayal. But I saw it as something that was different, but acceptable. Different, but good. And I'm hoping that as people replay it, because people will continue to replay it as it goes up on Steam, and it's important to keep old games around for learning purposes. People can see the value in it. Well, that's about all I have to say on Knights of the Old Republic. Thank you for listening to Brogue Talks, and I hope I can talk to you guys later.